So welcome everyone to, again, Building a Meaningful Life, the value of work plus community for people with developmental disabilities. We're so happy to have so many joining us today. So my name is Cindy Ardema. I work with Easterseals serving Greater Cincinnati. My role is in community and family engagement. And I also happen to be mom to a 17-year-old daughter with a developmental disability. So in the spirit of community engagement and family engagement, we really wanted to put this forum together this afternoon to do just exactly that. So in the past, just to give you a little context on how this kind of came about, in the past, we would have hosted an event like this one, where we would have done it in person. We would have asked and invited families and folks with disabilities, professionals to join us in person and listen to our speakers and share information and resources. So we're really hopeful that today's virtual experience, virtual online forum will be just as effective as an in-person forum, and perhaps maybe even more so. I mean, we're certainly seeing now we're able to connect with people outside of our greater Cincinnati area, and we may not have been able to do that in person. People may not have been able to travel. So we're really glad everyone's here. We really hope to offer some valuable information in this 1 hour that we have with you this afternoon. But I will say, even within this virtual platform that so many of us over this last year have gotten more comfortable with, we have decided to try even just a little bit different format today within the virtual platform. So what we're doing is we have seven speakers today, each one presenting for just 5 minutes. And really, we're hopeful that will allow all of you are here for whatever information you're hoping to get. You'll be able to take away some good information, as well as be connected with some resources that could be available to you, certainly after today's session. So each presenter brings a tremendous amount of experience and expertise within the field of disability services and supports. They're all going to be talking to us with the same topic in mind, building a meaningful life, but from their own lens of expertise. So they'll also be talking about, how and where does the intersection happen with employment and work and community for people with developmental disabilities. So we're really hopeful that there will be some great takeaways. We know 2020 was a year that impacted all of us, and for people living with disabilities and their families, it impacted them even more so. So as an organization, we really thought this topic of building a meaningful life was important, and it would be important to enough other people, professionals and families alike, that they would also want to engage and learn more and share more. And clearly, this afternoon's attendance is an indication of just how important the topic is. So thank you all for joining us, and we're going to get started. And to kick us off this afternoon, I'm going to invite the Easterseals President and CEO, Pam Green, to share her welcome for everybody. So Pam?
Great. Thanks so much, Cindy. And I am absolutely thrilled to share with you guys today some of the great things that are happening in our community to assist people with disabilities and their families towards having a meaningful life. At Easterseals in Greater Cincinnati, we embraced employment first pretty early. We're going to talk about employment a lot today. So we used to operate multiple sheltered workshops, and we closed our first one in 2016. We closed our second one in 2019, and we've really made a move in our programming, both from a pre-vocational, a voc rehab, and even a day settings, is trying to help people with disabilities connect to employment and integrated opportunities. And I think one of the things that's interesting about this generation of people with disabilities is you guys are really trailblazers. The first generation to really have an integrated educational experience and really to have more workforce opportunities than any generation before. And I think that we all have talked a lot about what the challenges of COVID have been, and I am one of those wide-eyed optimists that always looks for the silver lining. And I actually think that coming out of COVID, we are going to see the most positive changes in employment for people with disabilities that we've ever seen. You know, I like to share with folks, and at Easterseals in Greater Cincinnati, we have about 60 folks that have worked in area Kroger stores, for example. And throughout the pandemic, the folks that we serve, not one person who was employed contracted COVID on the job or contracted COVID. So to me, that says that people with disabilities are very respectful of rules, and are, going to keep themselves and their coworkers safe. I think there's a great story there. The other thing, we all know the challenges that transportation can present to finding employment for people with disabilities. And I think the one thing that we've seen is that we are able to do a lot more jobs from home than we thought we could in the past. So as we look towards the next phase of employment opportunities for people with disabilities, I'm excited to see what we bring. So we're going to be sharing a lot from our partners, as well as about some of the programs that Easterseals offers. And so since we have so many folks from around the state, if there is a program that you're interested in and you'd like to find out if it's offered at your local Easterseals in your community, please let me know. I'm extremely proud that this is Easterseals' 102nd year of existence, and we were founded in Elyria, Ohio. So we are Ohio bred and Ohio proud. So wonderful to have you all here today. And I think Cindy's going to take us on through the rest of the agenda. So thank you.
Yes, I will. Thank you so much, Pam. That's the perfect way to get us kicked off this afternoon. So thank you. So before we start with our presenters, I would like to just take a very brief moment to go over a few housekeeping items and answer a few questions that I think some of our attendees might have, since we have such a large group with us today. First, we'd like to ask all attendees to please turn your video off and mute your microphones. That will really help us, I think, to have a better technology connection, a smoother connection. At least we hope so. So thank you for that. If you have questions throughout, please feel free to type them into the chat box. Or you could just write them and hold them until the last presenter finishes. We have set this up and we have it timed out such that we will have plenty of time at the end for questions and answers and the ability to engage with our presenters. So chat box or hold them till the end. And then finally, as I mentioned earlier, we really do have a terrific lineup of presenters, each speaking for just 5 minutes. So sit back and hopefully you'll learn and gain some information, but know that they've all also agreed to share their slides at the end. So if you're taking notes, not to worry, in the next few days, you'll get an email with a copy of all the slides from the presenters today. And we're also going to be emailing out the recording of the forum this afternoon. So that will come. So those are my quick housekeeping notes and hopefully answered a few questions you might have had. So with that, we'll get moving into our first presentation. So I would like to welcome Keith Banner. Keith is a Community Life Engagement Project Manager at the Ohio Department of Developmental Disabilities. He's worked in the developmental disabilities field in Ohio for 28 years, focusing most of his time on employment and community connectedness for people with developmental disabilities. So we're really glad to have Keith from DODD here today, and his topic is employment first. What does this mean for people with disability? So Keith, start us off.
Thanks, Cindy and Pam and Easterseals Tri-State for doing this. Appreciate it. So I'm going to tell a little bit about the history of employment first, which would include Governor Kasich launching it and about 9 years ago, almost to the day, with an executive order that he signed, March 19, 2012, called the Employment First Initiative. We can move forward. What that initiative kind of spearheaded was community employment is the first and preferred option for all people with developmental disabilities. Next slide. And from that order came together an Employment First Task Force, which was basically an aligning of policy and reducing of barriers by all the state agencies that have anything to do with people with developmental disabilities. You see at the bottom of your screen, all of them, including DODD, the Department of Education, and of course, opportunities for Ohioans with disabilities, as well as Medicaid and ODJS and the mental health and addiction services. We can move to the next one. 5 minutes is not much time, y'all. So basically, employment first is not employment only, right? It's about learning about employment and figuring out where you fit in the world. So employment services become the first option, but not the only option. And I wanted to stress too that employment first isn't a program as much as a philosophy, a way to plan and then be intentional and to proceed that way. Next slide. So no more asking, can you work? Or are you employable? Instead, what are you good at? What can we help you discover, right? What are you interested in? No more asking, do you want to work, but where do you want to work? Again, kind of digging deeper and discovering with the person where they fit in the workforce. Next slide. So from that initial signing of the Employment First initiative, we have the Employment First administrative rule, which kind of aligns all the rules and regulations for waivers around this idea of employment as the first option. So that includes someone being a part of the person-centered planning process to identify their place on the path to community employment, that all the services and supports provided kind of help somebody move along that once that's established. And then the providers of that service are required to submit progress reports around what's happening and what are obstacles, what are we doing to kind of help the person move forward. So I mentioned the path to community employment. Here it is, basically. It's 4 places, and it's not like you're landing there and staying there. It's the beginning of the conversation, right? As you plan and become kind of learning what you want to do as you move into the workforce. So the 4 are, I have a job, but I'd like a better one, or maybe move forward. 2 is, I want a job, but I need some more help getting there. 3 is, I'm not sure about this work thing. I need help to learn more. And then 4 is, I don't think I want to work, but I may not know enough about it. We can move on to the next one. I pulled together some resources for you guys because, and then you got, I think Cindy mentioned that the slides will come at you. So we'll move into those right now. This is a transition toolkit for those parents and family members who are helping somebody move from from school to adulthood. And this kind of walks you through every aspect of transition, and including a kind of a multi-agency sensibility to help you kind of work with all the agencies that you may need to go to for some help. Next one. This is all the DODD employment related resources that we have all in one place. And you click on that link. Next one. And then I found this on the internet. It's really great. It's called the Institute for Community Inclusion. It's a great place just to go look at, but this is basically around community employment and COVID-19, all the resources you'd kind of need, with lots of information and PDFs and resources around essential jobs, virtual services, all that kind of stuff. And this link takes you to Job Seekers Guide on our Employment First website, which is a great set of modules for training and resources to help everybody learn about all the stuff that I kind of quickly went through to get you kind of the beginning infrastructure on all this stuff. But that's a really great place to start, is the Job Seekers Guide. And that's my information, and I'm always willing to answer questions and help you in any way I can. And again, thanks to Cindy and Pam for pulling all this together.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Keith. And those, as we said, those slides will be available, and it's great that you were able to build in those links to your slides. So when families and professionals, when you receive those, you can certainly have access to everything, even beyond what's just printed on the slide, and a lot of links. So, we have really challenged our speakers today to try to condense hours of information into just a few minutes, to hopefully give it to you in a way that you can take some information away today and have then some resources to go back to at another time. So
I made it too. I made it. So I just wanted to brag. There you go.
Yeah, we're good. Good. Fantastic. So we'll keep going. There are several more presenters who have hours of information to pack into just 5 minutes, and I know they're eager to share. So our next presenter this afternoon is Vanessa Elliott. Vanessa is with Opportunities for Ohioans with Disabilities, commonly referred to with an acronym OOD, Opportunities for Ohioans with Disabilities. So Vanessa began with OOD in 2016 as a vocational rehabilitation counselor in Butler County, serving a general population and transition age youth. And then in 2019, Vanessa became a vocational rehabilitation supervisor in Hamilton County. Now she supervises a team of counselors that support transition age youth with disabilities. So Vanessa's topic today is vocational rehabilitation, job supports, and understanding the process. So I know there's a lot of people anxious to hear from you, Vanessa. So help us understand the process.
Thank you, Cindy. And Keith, you have really brought the pressure to stay under 5 minutes. Hopefully I can do it. Like Cindy said, OOD is Ohio's vocational rehabilitation program, and we're available throughout the state. So wherever you may move to, we're available for you. Our goal is to assist individuals with finding, keeping, and or advancing in competitive integrated employment in the community, specifically that aligns with skills and interests. We want to make sure that you're getting into a good fit, something that you can, feel pride in and what you want to be doing. We are an eligibility-based program that uses 4 criteria to determine eligibility. That's diagnosed disability that makes it difficult to find or keep a job. The individual must want to work, and you need our services to achieve that goal. Great thing is services can start as early as 14 years of age, so we can really help move the process forward with some of our younger individuals. We know that employment can play an important part in identity, instilling a sense of pride and independence. So our goal at OOD is to eliminate or mitigate those barriers that might exist for individuals wanting to work. We want to get people out in the community doing something that they love. Next slide. So you'll see an overview of what the VR process looks like. Definitely very simplistic, but gives you an idea. First step is application. So that's the documentation that we are gathering from an individual. We do an intake meeting, kind of figure out where you're at, where you've been, and where you would like to be. From there, once a VR staff member has received all the documentation, eligibility is decided. And that's really assessing whether all 4 criteria are met and what services might be needed to get them to that, vocational goal. Services, the counselor and the individual will then work together to create an individualized plan for employment. So kind of think of that as the roadmap to get to your vocational goal. We work with multiple agencies and partners like Easterseals to provide the various services that are offered. So there's a lot of different ways to get to where you're going. And then hopefully closure, that's when you're successfully employed and no longer needing our services. Next slide. So some possible services. So once you're in that individualized plan for employment, you are basically looking at those services that you need to meet your vocational goal. Some top ones that we've seen in the past that kind of, play a predominant role: job placement assistance, really helping you try to find that appropriate job fit. On the job supports, maybe you can get the job, but you need some help with coaching and learning some tasks. So we have coaches that we partner out with to do that. Rehabilitation and assistive technology, and transition youth services. So summer youth work experience and pre-employment transition services, helping those students learn about what work life is after they get out of high school. And then there are lots of other services available, and it really is just based off of vocational need, and that's where that individual talks to the counselor and says, hey, here's where my barrier might be. What can we do about this? Next slide. So contact information, www.oodworks.com is our referral portal. So if you go in there, that is where you can actually take like a little quiz to see, hey, is this, the next best step for me? It can also allow you to upload any documentation you may need. Additionally, that is the contact number for the Centennial and Dayton office. Don't worry, for any of you guys not in that area, if you call that number, we'll definitely get you where you need to be if you're in a different part of the state. Our main goal is to make sure that you're getting the services that you need. And I think I made it.
I think so. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Vanessa. That was a great snapshot, a great 5-minute snapshot for the process. That's, this conversation is always a question, particularly among families trying to navigate the process. So thanks for that. And I know you're a great resource for people that have even further questions. So thank you. And so our next presenter is going to expand even more on the opportunities for Ohioans with disabilities, job support concept, OOD, and supports, but she's going to focus on one particular group, and that's school age students. So our next presenter is Melissa Shannon. She is a project search supervisor with Easterseals serving Greater Cincinnati. She's worked for Easterseals for 5.5 years, and she started out as a community job coach, then became a job developer with the Miami University Search Program. In 2018, she moved into the role she's currently in as a supervisor and part of the project search program supporting transition students. So Melissa's topic today is pre-employment transition services and summer work experiences for school-age students with a disability. So Melissa, please take it from here.
Thanks, Cindy. So like Cindy said, I work with students who are, of transition age / still in school. So the first service that I'm going to talk about that we at Easterseals offer, go ahead and go to the next slide, Michael, is the pre-employment transition services, also known as PREETs. So if you hear me saying that throughout, PREETs and pre-employment transition services are the same thing. So what these services are essentially kind of an introduction into what the working world can look like. It is offered to people who are between the ages of 14 to 22. And we offer this service in conjunction with OOD, Opportunities for Ohioans with Disabilities. And the service has 5 separate curriculum areas. And these curriculum areas can be taken consecutively or kind of piece by piece if, a student has more of an interest in one area over another. So the 5 different curriculum areas are instruction and self-advocacy, workplace readiness training, job exploration, work-based learning, and counseling on post-secondary options. So each of these specific curriculum areas have a certain amount of hours that we can work with the students in, and where they can truly kind of begin to learn about what working life is like, as well as exploring their interest. They get to partake in some informational interviews, work site tours, interest inventories, and kind of begin to learn what it means to be out in the community and working. These services can be offered in a group up to 4 or on an individual basis. Because of COVID, we have been offering these services virtually, and but even still, we are offering in-person services as well. Next slide. These are the 3 staff we have who currently provide the service. All 3 of them are absolutely awesome. They come with varying backgrounds in education and working with students with disabilities. Elizabeth Miller tends to cover our Forest Hills area, as well as Blue Ash, Sycamore, and some of Butler County. David Turner tends to cover more of Cincinnati Public Schools area, as well as like Northwest and Coleraine. And Elizabeth Dickerson, she kind of fills in the other outlying school districts that we get. So she works, she has students with Princeton, Great Oaks, as well as she's got a few students in Butler County as well. Okay, next slide. So I'm sure you're wondering, how do you go about getting referred for PREETs? So one kind of neat thing about PREETs, because the earliest date that you can begin doing PREETs is 14, is you don't have to have an open case with OOD. So what you can do in that case, if you are not fully open with OOD, you can contact your intervention specialist and they will send a referral to OOD to kind of get that process started. Or if you have an open case with OOD, you can speak with your OOD counselor and they can get that process rolling for you. Next slide. So believe it or not, warmer days are ahead. After yesterday, I'm ready for it. I'm sure everybody else is too. We are planning for a awesome summer youth work experience this summer, both in Hamilton County and Butler County. It will be a 5-week paid work experience at 20 hours a week, paid at minimum wage. We operate on a 4-to-1 ratio, so 4 individuals per 1 staff, and it will be conducted Monday through Friday from June 14th to July 16th. This option is a fantastic first job opportunity for your loved one or family member because it provides them experience as well as, you know, a supported environment where they can grow and get to know what they want to do. And most students who begin to work in high school, it actually helps them have a better working future once they become an adult. So this is a great place to start. So next slide. So how do you get someone enrolled? So with this service, everybody has to have an open and active case with OOD. So you would need to contact your OOD counselor or liaison, and they can begin the referral process. Next slide. So if anybody ever has any questions about these services, that the pre-ed services or the summer youth opportunities, you can contact me at Melissa Shannon, and then my manager's contact information is below. Thank you guys so much. Back to you, Cindy.
Thank you. Thanks, Melissa. Thanks for that information. And I think it's just, I'll add, because I know there are a lot of folks joining us today from outside the greater Cincinnati area. And I'll just mention that all of these services that Melissa just talked about, the pre-employment transition services available to students ages 14 and up, those are available throughout the state of Ohio. So if you're in another county, you're a parent or a teacher and you're wondering, so really the best way to inquire in your particular area is to reach out to Opportunities for Ohioans with Disabilities or your teacher and connect them, because those services are provided throughout the state. So, and the research, like Melissa said, the research really does show that students who are employed in high school, young people employed in high school that have jobs in high school have better employment outcomes as adults. So taking advantage of these kind of services through providers in whatever county you live in is really something that's worth looking into. And now's the perfect time in March, because summer's still a little ways away. So thanks, Melissa, for packing all of that into 5 minutes. So we're definitely seeing a theme already with our first 3 speakers, you know, that theme of community and being involved, and how every community is really not complete unless everybody is part of it. So I think it's a simple notion, but it's really an area of focus, I know, for all of us that are supporting people with disabilities and finding ways to be a part of our broader community. So keeping that thread kind of in mind, we'll keep moving forward with our next presenter. So our next presenter is Chrissy Perkins, and Chrissy has worked in the field of vocational rehabilitation for 28 years, and she's been an employee of Easterseals for that time, with a primary focus on supportive employment and community integrated services. So Chrissy currently serves as the Director of Integrated Community Supports and Adult Day Services. She oversees the development of new and innovative community programming ideas that are designed to help people with disabilities make those transitions, that transition from perhaps a sheltered working environment into the community, or students in high school to make that transition from high school into the adult world. So Chris is going to share with us a lot of great things that are happening in our area, and I know they're happening in other parts of Ohio, but she's going to share a lot of good ideas. So Chrissy's topic is career readiness training, community engagement, and adult programming. So Chrissy, you're up.
You're on mute, Chrissy.
Okay, I said, hi, everyone. I'm Christy, and I put my video on for a second so everybody can see my face and see who's talking, but I'm going to turn it off now and go to my slideshow. But welcome, everyone. I'm so excited that you are here. So today I wanted to share programming that we provide at Easterseals to help people build a meaningful life. Next slide, please. Our first program that I wanted to talk about is our neighborhood hubs. It's a different program opportunity that helps people learn skills and prepare for work. There's a lot of social and recreation activities we do. We learn independent living, job readiness skills. Every day the group goes out for volunteer opportunities or paid work sites and job tryouts. And it's just a great way for people to build friendships and effective working relationships with people. Keith mentioned earlier in his discussion that Employment First isn't employment only, and the Neighborhood Hub is a program that provides both social recreation and the employment piece to people. Next slide. Our next program is Work and Grow. This is our paid work site kind of program. So these are set for individuals that might not really know what they want to do for a job or want to learn more skills before they go out and get a job. It is an opportunity where we provide real paid work experience and on-site support to people in local businesses that we partner with. It provides community integration and ways to learn job interest areas and work on your soft skills, like how do I deal with a conflict with a person I have at work? We help these individuals move towards job development and looking for a job, and possibly a referral to OOD that was discussed earlier. You work side by side with community businesses at this program, and you do receive a competitive wage. Next slide. Our more traditional program that we provide is a model of our adult day services. It's a place where you can learn, live, work, and play. We have daily activities in a safe and engaging environment. It's very person-centered and interests across different age cultures. We do a lot of community outings and community involvement pre-COVID. Hopefully we'll get to that community outings and community involvement as things open up more. And we also provide personal care and assistance with daily living skills to the individuals that come to that program. Next slide. So we also provide a summer youth program in our job readiness site. It's a little different than what Melissa described. It's a little more traditional. We do a lot of things with activities that are fun and interest focused. It gives people opportunities to learn about job readiness skills and learn how to self-advocate for themselves, meet new friends, employ individual interests, and do just some fun things. If you notice on these pictures, we've got somebody playing the piano because that's something he was interested in. And then across the way, we've got somebody that we took to a barn to visit with horses because that's something that she was super interested in. We also partner with businesses to provide professional skills, and you might do an informational interview or a job shadow while you're in our summer youth program. Next slide. And then we have our virtual services. This is a program that we started providing during COVID, and it is free and open to anyone and everyone that would like to attend. We are currently providing this service every Wednesday at 3 o'clock. It's a way to stay connected with people, develop friendships, see familiar faces, or meet new faces and new people. You learn computer skills, you learn social skills. We learn about each other and what our interests are. And it's just a great time to just have fun and be silly. I know I bounce on every week just to see all the friendly and silly faces. This week, I'm doing a plug. We will be celebrating St. Patrick's Day and we will all be wearing green. So anybody who's interested, please put in the chat and I can make sure you have the link for that. Next slide. And then this is just an overview of some of my fantastic team. I have an amazing team with a lot of longevity, and they have a true commitment to their jobs. So if you were to come to any of our services, these are some of the faces that you would be working with. Thank you all for joining us today. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Chrissy. Thank you. That was terrific. A lot of information packed into 5 minutes. So thank you for that. So we're going to keep on track here. We have a couple more presenters and we want to be sure to leave time at the end for questions. So our next presentation, I will invite Gary Potabaum to join us. Gary's been serving as the Director of Transition and Community Employment at Easterseals for almost 5 years. In that time, Gary's team has built new partnerships with diverse national companies like Procter & Gamble, Western Southern, Topgolf, Amazon, as well as many local employers that see the value in hiring a diverse workforce. So Gary's the perfect guy to be talking about his topic today, which is inclusion and the employment landscape for 2021. So Gary.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining us. As Cindy said, I'm Gary Potabaum. I can't wait to talk to you about just looking for the job and the barriers that are there, but ways to make it, meaningful for you. So if, and we're jumping right in, perfect. All right, so we provide comprehensive assessment, job readiness training, job development, both traditional and customized, as well as follow-up for at least 1 year. We do that with the cooperation of OOD. They're kind of the glue that holds everything together for us. Once we find a placement for somebody, job coaching can be, it is very individualized, pardon me. If someone's having challenges, it might be longer than that 3 months that we're talking about here. If someone's doing well, it actually could take longer as the responsibilities increase, and we re-engage with them to make sure that those responsibilities are addressed in such a way that our people can be successful. We work with all sorts of accommodations, such as task lists, visual, reminders, setting reminders on a smartphone or watch. And one of the things that's really important to us, and sometimes is most overlooked, is that we're looking to build natural supports in the workplace so that when job coaching has faded, our folks know who to go to if they're facing a challenge. Next slide, please. All right, so we've got a ton of business partners, as Cindy mentioned in my introduction, and they both work with us from a traditional standpoint, meaning a regular job description and a regular, hire you off the street placement, as well as some negotiations to create some specific tasks for people from job descriptions. As you can see, lots of known businesses here, and so many more. There's just so many neat stories out there about what we can do to help your family member with their job search. Next slide, please. So when we're looking for a job, one of the most important things is, and just like any of us, it would be, is this what I'm looking for? Is this in the correct industry? Does the schedule line up with my needs? Am I a morning person? And if I am, I'm probably not gonna do so well at a job that's 5 to midnight. If I'm not a morning person, I'm not gonna do so well getting up at 7 a.m. to get to work. The most important part of this whole story when we're looking at folks with disabilities in this landscape is, how am I getting to work? Is it something in the neighborhood that I can walk to? Is a metro route available? Am I eligible for a transportation provider? Or, am I able to get family help, or is someone able, or am I able to drive myself? Those are the questions we need to ask. And our wonderful folks that are coming after me at Hamilton County DD, or any of your local DD boards, can help you answer some of those questions as well. Next slide, please. So at Easterseals, here are some of our average, our measures for 2020, and obviously 2020 wasn't a typical year. We still had some really awesome outcomes for the folks that we placed both in community-based employment, as well as folks that were graduating from transition programs. As you can see, 25 hours a week on average at $10.57 per hour. That average time to placement actually has a couple of outliers in it. And if you pull those outliers out, we're somewhere in the 12 to 15 week range when it comes to finding someone a job. Next slide, please. So if you have any questions, that is my email address there, as well as my personal cell phone. Just don't call me after 5 p.m., please. And I really thank you for taking the time to listen to me today.
Thank you, Gary. More really great information. Thanks. And those slides, just a reminder, those slides will be available in the next day or two. So now finally, our anchor presenters. We have two people presenting in our final spot today. They're going to bring us home this afternoon with a look toward the future. So Dawn Freudenberg and Sean Bostic are both with Hamilton County Department of Disability Services. So Dawn has worked for the county for 25 years, supporting adults and children with disabilities. She is currently the director of the Office of Planning, Innovation, and Quality, overseeing family and advocacy, provider support, and community relations. Over the past 4 years, Dawn has been project director for the Future is Now Aging Caregiver Grant that is invested in helping older caregivers and their loved ones plan for a good future. Sean Bostic, also with Hamilton County Disability Services, is the Family Engagement Coordinator on the A-Life team. And A-Life is an acronym for Advocacy, Life Course, Inclusion, Family Engagement. So Sean's role, he's really centered on helping families stay in the know and facilitating meetings for families that help them with future planning. Two programs I think they're going to share and talk about just in a minute is The Future Is Now and Charting the Life Course. So welcome to Dawn and Sean.
Well, thank you so much, Easterseals, for hosting this. Just a lot of great information packed in a really short period of time, and we're glad to be here. I'm going to just frame this out. We're going to zoom out a little bit and talk about what the question that we find many families, particularly older caregivers, worried about what will happen when I'm no longer here to care for my loved one. And that is really the source of the Future Is Now conversations. It's a series of 5 conversations that we host with family members in small groups and really delve into this question. Next slide, please. The outcome from these conversations, or really the product, is the letter of intent. And this is a document that captures the hopes and plans for the future. It really literally gets family and friends on the same page. So they're writing down their hopes and intents for the future in one single document. It offers a practical structure to learn about resources that they may not be new to them or unfamiliar. And it also serves as a guide that helps others turn to when caregivers are unable to provide care. Next slide, please.
So key conversations that we have during our 4-part series of Future Is Now: naming hopes, dreams, and worries, strengthening and expanding personal networks, where will my family member live and work, how can I protect and maximize public benefits, who will be the keepers of our dream and plan. Next slide, please. So, vision for a good life, what we want for our loved one: enjoyable employment, managerial and colleague support, and meaningful work. What we don't want for our loved one: isolation, being taken advantage of, and meaningless work. Next slide, please. Things to talk about. So what can you as a caregiver do or learn about how to increase what you want, the hope for your loved one? And what can you do now over the next few months to decrease what you don't want? So for instance, isolation that we talked about before concerning your loved one. And who else can go on this journey with you so that you don't go alone? Next slide.
So we also, during these sessions, include advocate sessions, and this is really making sure that the intentions are in our own words. We structure these sessions so that however a person communicates, that is incorporated into the final letter of intent. Next slide, please. So this is a Leary family. I just wanted to point out, this is one of our earlier families, and the matriarch there is the second person to the right, Pat Leary. Pat came to these sessions with some misconceptions about how the waiver operated. She had some unspoken expectations of family members, and this is a wonderful family, and they had rich dialogue and came out with a plan being on the same page so that the future of Arthur, who's right there in the center, was much more concrete. So they really had a great discussion and worked well together. Next slide, please. So learnings from our work. So again, we know and say multiple times throughout the series that planning is a journey over time. So this isn't a one-stop plan. It's something that evolves over time and takes time and learning. There are simply not enough waivers or accessible housing or public funding. So these creative approaches across systems are critical. We just know that and emphasize that. And we know that the discipline of writing things down in this letter of intent and sharing it is powerful and has been empowering. Next slide, please.
Learning from our work. The most important work is building personal networks, weak and strong ties. It takes 10 seconds of outrageous courage to make an invitation. For instance, you'll be surprised a family member, a distant family member, or a neighbor who will be potentially a weak tie could become a strong tie. Also, family and friends cannot replace a parent, but can own a very important role when it comes to your loved one's well-being. For additional information on The Future Is Now, please visit www.hamiltondds.org or feel free to call me at 513-614-7025, or you can email me at sean.bostick@hamiltondds.org. That could possibly be put in the chat. I give it back to you, Cindy.
All right, all right. Thank you so much, Dawn and Sean. That was a great way to wrap up our final presentation and to really kind of help folks understand some options when planning for the future. So thanks. So, okay, so we want to thank all of our speakers that presented for us today and for really taking our 5-minute challenge and running with it. So let's see, we're going to take the last 10 minutes or so to engage with our presenters and ask some questions. And I think our team has been monitoring the chat, but if you have a question you'd like to ask, now would be a great time to put in the chat box, or you can feel free, of course, to unmute and ask your question yourself. Either way, whatever you're most comfortable with. So let's see, does anyone have some from the chat that they want to share?
We have one directly to Keith that I feel like will need to be addressed a little bit more fully, but maybe just talk about their child is 17, loves riding elevators and watching Dora and washing machines. That he has done, I shouldn't say he, son, sorry. He has done some pre-employment transition with OOD, but needs more support in employment than they can provide at this moment. And he's not able to do the 5-week program. And I think they're just kind of at a loss of what to do next. His school is trying to help him learn pre-vocational and soft job skills. And this parent is just, I think, yeah, what to do next, if we have any guidance.
I actually privately sent a message to that questioner just so that maybe we could talk over the phone to get kind of some of the more information going, because I'd like to know more about the situation. But there's all kinds of things you can do. But I think what Dawn and Sean were talking about is really the key to it, is the intent, writing it down and having a plan and figuring it out, and then going to the service system and having more of a sense of agency about working with all those agencies. So I think that would be one of the first steps I'd want to get with you and kind of help you plot it out and get a vision down. And then we could move into possibly accessing supports in a way that makes sense to your son. Dawn, Sean, is that pretty good from what I'm saying? I just want to make sure. Okay, cool.
Chrissy, there's a question to you about our summer program for the summer, if it's offered this summer, which it is. Do you want to just give a quick answer to that question?
Did you say me? Sorry, I didn't hear that.
Yeah, just the brief details of our summer youth program.
I'm responding to her message right now.
Oh, okay.
So I was looking up the dates. Do you know the dates off the top of your head? Because I have to look them up.
Yeah. So the Easterseals summer work and grow program starts. We will be offering 9 weeks. The first 6 weeks will be in College Hill, and that's June 7th through July, I think, 8th. And then the last 3 weeks will be in Mason, and that's July 19th through August 6th. And we have information about all of that on our website, and we'll be glad to share any of that individually as well. And that's for ages, the summer camp program is ages 16 to 25.
Cindy, can you talk about how people contact Easterseals to learn more about utilizing us as a job developer and job coach, please?
Sure, I think, and we'll put our information in the chat, but I think the best way to reach us is to visit our website, Easterseals, Easterseals, www.eastersealsgc.org, and then you can reach, and myself, I would be a great place to start, and that can help you navigate. I'm the Community and Family Engagement Coordinator, and whether you're looking for information to support a student in school or an adult, I can help you pair up with the right person to talk to.
I have a question for Christy.
Chrissy?
Yes.
Go ahead.
I have a question regarding your work and grow paid work sites. When you're trying to help people learn and improve their work skills coming out of a sub-minimum wage environment. How do you get employers or businesses to pay competitive wages when clearly the folks are not working at 100% productivity?
So we've done that in a number of different ways. I mean, the less ideal that we have done is we have had partnerships with businesses where we are actually who pays the wage for the individuals, but we're trying to get away from doing that and more developing the relationship with the business so they could pay the wages. And I mean, I think the biggest thing that we strive to do is just guarantee that the work will be done. And we have a supervisor that oversees the individuals that work. And I'm kind of talking more on our paid work of the hubs. That's probably the easiest way to describe it. So it's usually a 4-to-1 ratio where there's 4 individuals working and they're supervised by one of our staff. And then we just make sure that the tasks that were given are completed in the time frame. And they don't typically work full days. They're working about 2 or 3 hours a day. I don't know if that answers your question. It's all about the relationship building with that business. And it's really all about just focusing on our mission and what that is, and what the employer can do in that sense, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and if I could add on to that, Chrissy, this is Pam. I think one of the things, just from a mission perspective, Easterseals has a really robust fundraising effort, and there are often donors that say, I don't want to give my money to administration or to overhead. I want to give my money to the people that are served. And so we do have reserve funds that we use to help pay the wages when we're unable to get a full subsidy from or a full reimbursement from employers. And that has been very effective for us from a fundraising perspective, because our donors understand, as do most businesses, that this is a work experience. We are not asking you to necessarily hire one of the individuals that we serve that's spending a couple of days at your business learning job skills, but you are benefiting from it and you're contributing to their work readiness. And so pre-pandemic, I think it was you just have to find the right business that's aligned with what it is that you're trying to accomplish. And so we've had success, for example, with fitness centers. This is, what we're trying to recover from right now in the post-pandemic world. But to have our folks that are, learning janitorial and greeting responsibilities, they generally have a hard time keeping staff. And so if we're paying at, a competitive wage, which is we start our folks in our work transition programs at minimum wage, that is generally less expensive for them. We bring a supervisor with our team that helps and ensures our folks are getting productive. So it's been a win-win in the employers where we've done it.
Thank you.
And that's, yeah. And I just wanted to say, I would say it's about half and half for us in terms of half Easterseals subsidy, and the other half of the businesses that we work with, they pay for it. And we are trying to move that needle. But, Kay, for us, we've sort of changed the system. One of the things I say is, we're trying to fly the plane while we build it. And so it's important to us that as we get people out of segregated work environments, that we don't just transition them into an unpaid day program. People with disabilities want to earn a wage, regardless of whether or not they're as productive as a non-disabled person. And so in those situations, until we find that right opportunity for someone where they can be as productive, we want to give them exposure to as many opportunities as possible. And we're a mission-based organization, and that's what we lead with, is if we have to raise some of the money to do it ourselves, we will.
Sorry, I was also going to add, I mean, COVID has, given us challenges in that. So we're currently looking at developing new relationships with other businesses out in the community as well. So stay tuned.
Yeah, we're definitely focused on those partnerships. So are there any other questions this afternoon? And I will say, just to everyone that's still on the call, if you think of some questions later, perhaps if you go back to the original invitation that you received, my email is on there. So you can certainly feel free to send a message to me and I will get your questions to the presenters for sure. So that's certainly an option beyond this afternoon. And then I think most everyone has put their contact information in the chat in terms of the presenters. So, and you will get the slides. And we're approaching our 1 hour mark. So that was a lot of information packed into just at 59 minutes now, I think. So I want to thank everyone again for joining us from the Cincinnati area and beyond. And thanks again to all of our speakers. We're really hopeful that there's some good takeaways for our attendees this afternoon. And we appreciate you spending your lunch hour with us. And so we will see you next time, and you'll be getting emails from us in the coming days. So thanks, everybody.